Another day, another dollar, or $8.50 or $9 an hour, depending on what the minimum wage is.
It will increase my payroll by roughly $50,000 a year. That would be mine. There are similar businesses that would have a larger increase because they have multiple locations.
Vince Vaccaro owns Lorenzo's, a pizza restaurant in Las Cruces. He brought his business and his family here from California more than a decade ago.
Well, I've been cooking since I was about 7. Opened my first restaurant in Berkeley, California in 1983.
Vince pays his workers based on level of skill, but he starts everyone at the minimum.
Even if they have 20 years experience, they have to show me what they have. I've given raises in 2 days.
What he pays workers right now ranges from $7.50 to close to $20 an hour. He earned minimum wage himself when he was just starting out.
I started at $1.47 an hour, I think it was, yeah. And bread, by the way, was like 19 or 25 cents a loaf.
The last time the minimum wage was close to a current living wage was the 1960s. Vince echoes that.
The minimum wage was designed to bring people into the job market that didn't have skills. It was never designed to be a living wage. You're not supposed to live on this. It's supposed to be a starting point, and you increase by your harder work. And if your boss doesn't give you a raise, then you need to find a different place to work.
Sarah Nolan is the executive director at CAFE. That's Communities in Action and Faith.
A faith-based community organization. It was started by a dozen clergy in 2009.
Her organization is pushing for an increase in the minimum wage.
60% of minimum wage earners are adults. And New Mexico, and southern New Mexico especially, would generate so much more consumer spending if we were to get this minimum wage increase passed by the governor. And I think it'd be a great question for her to ask, what would happen if she didn't pass this? Because it's hugely popular among not only our base within CAFE, but it's hugely popular among New Mexicans. It's about 79% of New Mexicans support a minimum wage increase.
Right now, Las Cruces has about 400 private sector businesses, and about half of those employ 100 or more employees.
Many of the small businesses we have are already paying a median of $8.11. So it's actually bringing and forcing the big boxes in our community that are out of state, that aren't local, to pay their fair share.
President Obama mentioned minimum wage in his State of the Union address.
But today, a full-time worker making the minimum wage earns $14,500 a year, even with the tax relief we put in place. A family with 2 kids that earns the minimum wage still lives below the poverty line. That's wrong. That's why since the last time this Congress raised the minimum wage, 19 states have chosen to bump theirs even higher.
President Obama's chief economic advisor, Alan Krueger, is an economist who became famous in the 90s for research supporting minimum wage hikes. Krueger said in his book, Myth and Measurement, that since a minimum wage increase raises costs for every business, individual owners wouldn't lose customers to other businesses. The ideas in the book were controversial at the time, and they still are to some extent. Any increases will most likely come from a federally mandated increase. Sloan Patton, KRWG News.